down to Biscayne.
Yikes. 5 on the floor, ride for my dogs. Where here's the thing, you can check the score. Hustle hard, couple scars, wearing bubble frogs. Just like Butler said, you in trouble, y'all. Kept the floor playing, got it all band. Y'all seen the block, stop with one hand. And Pat we trust, it's about have the guts. We're here to bring the heat, y'all can hang it up.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a daily insider show on the Miami Heat and the NBA, featuring Ethan Skolnick, Greg Sylvander, and Alex Toledo, plus others from the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Welcome back to 5 on the Floor, the latest edition of post-game 5 on the Floor. Tonight's floor plan, I am your host, Greg Sylvander. With me on 5 on the Floor is Alex Toledo. You can follow him on Twitter at Tropical Blanket, and Brady Hawk. You can follow him on Twitter at BradyHawk305. We are going to do a little bit of a dive. I am not going to call it a deep dive because I am not about to subject myself to this for too long. But the Heat, we're going to get into the loss up in Toronto. 121-97 is the final score. It was ugly. It was really ugly. Like, I don't know how much I even want to go into this. We should even end the show right now, and that would probably be equivalent to the effort that we saw in the first half. And so let's just start by acknowledging that. So we're going to dive into all that. But before we do, I do want to call out that we have our Off the Floor Discord server, and it's blowing up currently because everybody wants to find the right trade. You can find up to I don't even know how many channels we have now, but it's reaching double digits. But the ones that are the most fun is our main thing chat, also our trades chat. It's a lot of fun. You can interact with other Heat fans 24/7. It's $2.99 on desktop, $3.99 if you have an iPhone. And you want to do it from your phone, but you definitely want to check out Off the Floor. It's our Discord. It's pinned to all of our Twitter pages, myself included. We're always tweeting about it, but you also can find it in the description of this show. So check out Off the Floor. And that's it. We're leaving because that's about as much as the Heat's effort was tonight. No. So 121-97. Alex, we were on playback, so we've and Brady was there as well. We've talked a little bit about this, but is Gary Trent Jr. He's not a scrub. So is he a Heat killer at this point? Yep. And then your opening remarks for tonight's game.
He is. I mean, he's certified. He's done it before, and it's the exact type of guy who kills you. And it wasn't just him tonight. Like RJ Barrett got to 26. Scotty Barnes only having 20 points to me. I felt like he had 40, but it really was because of the way that him and the others on the Raptors were just kind of marching, parading, you might say, to the rim all game long. Because, man, that defense was terrible. That was sickening. And it's funny because I feel like the last two post-game pods, or at least I wasn't on the Hornets one since we were at the game, but I've left saying, like, man, there was some bad basketball played. This was a whole different level, man. Like, when it just comes to the Heat, right? Because last game, it was more about both teams kind of stinking it up for a good portion of the game. But the Heat stunk it up tonight. Like, it was just – that was some of the most atrocious defense I've seen all season, which is just annoying because it felt like they were kind of finding their identity there in recent games. It felt like they were defending better, even with, like, the – terrible offensive basketball played recently. The defense, it felt like it was starting to find itself and shape into form a little bit. You know, you've got your best players back, and we spent all season long talking about how Jimmy, Bam, and Tyler have only played 6 games together. Man, after tonight, I don't know if I want to see them play together ever again. And I'm obviously messing around, but it's just like that was just such a shit effort. I'm sorry to curse. I try not to do that on this pod, but that's really what it comes down to. It's hard to get it to more than that. Like, the Heat very much have a way that they want to beat you. And we've talked about it ad nauseum for years when it comes to, like, they want to take away the rim. They want to make you shoot kind of semi-contested threes that aren't necessarily super clean. That was completely, like, what did not occur tonight. The Raptors were just making their way into the paint seemingly without much resistance at all. Like, for a big portion of this game, and then they got on fire from 3 because they kept generating wide open looks. And then I was talking about on playback, like, yeah, the second half there was bound to be some regression from the Raptors because they were 14 of 22 from three in the first half, and the Heat were 1 of 16, which is obviously just a huge, ginormous gap that there was going to be some sort of middle ground found. But you can't even like, and the regression came a little bit in the third quarter. Like the Raptors weren't on fire from three in the third quarter. The problem is you were down by so much. That regression came and you were still down by like 20 or whatever it was at the third quarter. That's how piss poor your defense was, that even regression couldn't save you, right? Like they got to 14 of 22 in the first place from three because of how bad their defense was. And man, I just can't emphasize enough how bad it was. And it's not one person. And look, I was not like, and I'm sure we're going to get into this, but on future shows, I wasn't a fan of the starting lineup heading into the game. I wanted to keep seeing you play with another point of attack wing. I can't even blame it on that tonight. Like it started off with them for sure, but it just continued no matter what lineup was out there. And it's like, I still feel the same, that I would like to go back to the bigger lineup. And I think Kyle at this point should be sent to the bench. I don't know why they feel the need to keep him as a starter. I don't think he's proven himself as somebody who needs to be in that starting lineup this season. Regardless of that, the effort from everybody was terrible tonight. Everybody. And it wasn't 100% of the game, but it felt like it wasn't that far off from 100%. Like I just thought it was an all-around piss poor effort. And I know that wasn't very like X's and O's heavy or even
it shouldn't be.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw.
No, because what we saw transcends X's and O's. Excuse me, Brady. We talked a little bit about it on playback about the starts of these games, and that we harp on closing lineups, and you articulated this beautifully. So I'm paraphrasing and quoting Brady, but so if I get it wrong, correct me. But we get all hung up on what the closing lineup's going to be, but you need to get to the closing lineup first, right? So the opening lineups do matter because the domino effect of the entire game. And it just seems like defensively early in this one, they were disconnected as hell. Do you foresee them doing something different early in games? Maybe is it a substitution pattern? Is it a starting lineup change? What do you think that they can do differently early in these games that maybe can just fortify them so that they're not in a slugfest, a cement battle, not even a slugfest or a mud fight, but a cement battle? Or you know what I mean? Like it's a situation where how can they get out of that early in games?
I think they do need a starting lineup shift. Like that's kind of the point I'm at. And it's not even overreacting to this one game. Like I said before, this is a multiple game thing. This is a bigger sample size than this. And just because, and I said this on playback as well, just because they won that Brooklyn game shouldn't make them as positive and confident as maybe you would think. Like I think the problems that occurred, you can't just throw out the window just because they made that comeback. And it was the same thing here. Like, even if, like, let's just say the impossible happened and they made this comeback tonight, we still needed to have the discussion that needed to be had of the inconsistencies and the stuff that's happening to start quarters. And it's happened all year. And I've literally talked, like, players have talked about it. I've talked about it with Tyler, where I asked him about the start of third quarter specifically. I didn't even bring up the first quarter because it was at the point of the season when the third quarter was just kept happening over and over coming out of halftime. And he's like, well, if it's not the third quarter, it's the first quarter. And it's become a trend. Like it's always been one of those things where they're coming out slow. And it's at the point now where you're saying, yeah, starting lineups don't matter as much as closing lineups. Like that's always been the case. They're like, okay, it doesn't matter that much, but at some point it does matter. At some point it does matter because you can't just be losing and trailing every game at the start of the quarter and say, well, we have our lineup we're going to get to eventually. Like that's not the point here.
How can you, when you start the quarter? I mean, you got outscored in the first quarter 18-41.
Yeah, and today was just a totally different scenario. Like even
and then they responded by getting outscored in the second quarter by 12.
Which exactly. So to your point earlier, this isn't a starting lineup issue tonight specifically because it blended into a bunch of different lineups. But this is a rhythm game, and things happen in the domino effect that Greg mentioned can happen in a basketball game where if you're kind of sluggish to start a game, it's not easy for this bench group to come in and find a rhythm immediately. You're playing off those same guys, so it's just tough to see. So, as I said before, I think you're at the point now where you need to start evaluating a starting lineup shift. Now the question becomes, where is that coming from? Because we've heard the talk about who is the starting four. There's been the talk about Kyle Lowry. There's been all these different scenarios that's being thrown out there. I just think that at this point, first of all, another thing we talked about on Playback Red that we went back and forth about is the point guard thing, where we always say they don't have a point guard. Essentially, they have two right now in the starting lineup, like quote unquote. And neither of them are high volume shooters. Neither of them are high volume scorers. They're both looking to kind of play that role. And one of them doesn't even really have the ball in his hands that much. So you're at a scenario now where it feels like if you're going to kind of plug this in, as Alex said before, putting a point of attack, bigger wing in there, as we've seen, I don't even remember, was it one game or two? We've seen it. We saw it for a small sample size there where it looked pretty good. So I just think the scenario, Alex, what were you jumping in to say?
I was muted for a second. I was going to say it was one game with Tyler and one game with Duncan, if I remember correctly, with that line.
Right. So they've done it before, and it's not something we're accustomed to seeing, I guess, in Miami. But I think at this point in the season where you can tinker and you have your top-end talent available, this is the time to do it. Because as I said before as well, we don't know when one of these top guys are going to go out again and miss another stretch of games. So if you want to figure out your problem with your main guys playing, you better figure it out now. And then you can mess around. And then when you have guys out, you could put Kyle in or Jovic in or anybody in that you want at that point. But right now, I think you need to figure out a rhythm. So I think it's time to start evaluating that.
Speaking of rhythm, let's go to the Rock Esports Gamer of the Night.
And now on 5 on the Floor, it's time for the Gamer of the Night, sponsored by Rock Esports Center, the place to eat, drink, and play all day. Host your next birthday party with them. Located at 15305 South Dixie Highway in Palmetto Bay. They've got a 5,500 square foot state-of-the-art center equipped with all the high-end power. Play all-day passes available for just $25, but if you mention 5 reasons, it's just $20. So mention 5 reasons or 5 RSN. You get to play all day for $20. And now, the Gamer of the Night.
Before we get into the Gamer of the Night, need to give a major shout out. We got a watch party coming up in the tournament. Alex, tell them about it.
Damn it, you put me on the spot. We've got a watch party and 2K tournament coming up. I was trying to quickly refer to the flyer here because I forgot the date. But the Rock Gamer of the Night, in the meantime,
is Gary
Trent.
8 of 9. This guy, I almost gave it away earlier. He was in an absolute rhythm, killed the Heat from start to finish, 10 of 13 from the field, 28 points. It could have been RJ Barrett. It could have been Emmanuel Quickly. He almost had a triple-double. It could have been Scotty Barnes. There were plenty of guys that killed Miami, but Gary Trent Jr. led the charge. He is the Rock Esports Gamer of the Night. And now with those tournament and watch party details.
Yes, sir. So the watch party is going to be on January 27th. Heat at Knicks. And that game is starting at 3 o'clock. So we're trying to make it easier for you guys to kind of head over there and give you enough time. And not only that, even better, the 2K tournament, since the game starts at 3, it'll be ending around 5:30. The 2K tournament is set to start around 6.
That's
so
dope.
it's going to be in the middle of the day. I think it's going to be easier for you guys to come out there. We were trying to make sure to get kind of like a weekend game or something that we could get in the middle of the day, and that is on a Saturday. So again, January 27th, Saturday. Go to Rock Esports Center. Sorry, I'm like trying to get these details off the flyer, and basically, if you want to just come and hang out, watch the game with us, it's free. Like, you don't have to pay anything. You can just hang out, watch the game. There will be snacks. There will be food. There will be drinks sold over there. And if you want to enter the 2K tournament, we brought down the entry fee. It's now $15. All of that goes to the pot, to the cash prize. Not only that, today we got Ethan to kind of, up the pot a little bit. He's going to throw down a $50 cash prize on top of, the entry fee pot. And there's going to be a second place prize as well. So we're just trying to kind of, spice it up a little bit for you guys, make it a little bit more interesting. And I plan to get first place. I got second place last time. I made some progress. So you want to make sure you win this money and not me. Come out to Rock Esports Center. Or not just watch the game with us.
Alex, you would have won that money at the last one now that they've extended the prize pot. But you better bring your A game out there. You're all lucky I ain't a gamer no more. I should send my son out there. He'll run it on y'all. Okay, so I don't really want to talk about this game a lot more because it was an awful display of Heat basketball, but we are going to run through a few other things here. I want to talk a little bit about Josh Richardson because I think that we're getting to a point here where the ups and the downs to me, it's unbelievable to see the stark difference between when Josh is playing well and what that looks like and when Josh is not playing well. And some of the shooting, I think, impacts other parts of his game. Do either of you think I'm overreacting to Josh's recent shooting impacting other parts of his game? Am I singling out Josh Richardson, or either of you as concerned as I am recently about his uneven play?
I mean, I would say this is pretty much what you should expect. Like, I think what you would have expected. Like, he's a player that has two different sides to him. Like, he's a guy that can get hot and be streaky and kind of find a rhythm. But when he's not, it could be a little ugly at times. And that's what we've seen at different stretches of this season. And that's why I don't know if it's overreacting or not. I just think this is kind of the expectation of his game, and that why there's certain questions that we're going to have of what does his minutes look like, if any, in a certain playoff rotation. Like, are they kind of squeezing him in? Is he a guy that's kind of subbing in on the back end in certain matchups? That's kind of what I think they're going to be at, because they're at the point now where they're playing a lot of their wings and bigs as guards that they don't need. Just because he's a guard, they don't need him just to play that position. Especially,
Yeah.
he's not even really generating a ton of assists. Like, it's not like he's playing that position. He's just kind of out there in this positionless system. So if he's not shooting well, if he's not having that rhythm, he's a guy that you kind of have to cut his leash. And I think the question tonight more so was the minutes that people were discussing, because he was at 23 minutes, but off the bench, like they didn't cut his leash at all. Like, they just kind of let him keep going. And that's always been as part of his game as well. I feel like he's not somebody that's going to shy away from to keep shooting. Like, if he's inefficient, like I think even last game he was 3 for 13. Like, he keeps getting the ball up. He keeps kind of getting those opportunities. And it's at the point now where he's sort of the guy in certain lineups that's getting helped off of. So he's kind of forced to take a lot of those shots, but he's going to have to start making them consistently. So we'll see what happens. But in a one-game sample size, I don't know if we'll overreact, but I think in the long run, there's certain things to evaluate and see, where he's going to fit in the rotation-wise.
That's kind of where I was going, because you look at him, he has 1 assist in the last 3 games. He was 2 of 7 from the field tonight, 3 of 13 or 3 of 10, so 3 of 13 over in Brooklyn. So it's just that jumped off the page to me, is just Josh having one of those downturns. But the other guy that I thought was better tonight, Alex, was Caleb Martin. He played a lot of a more efficient game. He looked like he was rounding back into form. I know that is lost amongst, when you lose by this much, nobody wants to hear anything good happen. But I think Caleb Martin was one of the few bright spots. Did you like what you saw from him? What were your thoughts on Caleb Martin's night?
I mean, you know what? Like, he was okay. And that's about as much as I can say, because it's like you said before, it's just hard to give anybody too much credit when you really just got roundly beat like that, roundly just destroyed. And, like, he finished 4 or 5. He gave you 5 assists. That's good stuff, like we can point to something good from tonight, I guess. But yeah, man, like, I just can't take away much from it when, like, your best 3 players each give you 16 points. And you know me, I'm not one to just talk about raw points or anything like that. But, like, I thought overall it was just a bad effort. And, when their defense is not in place, I don't believe in their offense. That's kind of what it comes down to. I've hinted at it before, but I felt like some of their offensive efficiency and production was kind of fluky. And I've fought against that narrative whenever it's been brought up in the past for the Heat and their playoff runs. But I do think, like, in this regular season, they've started off shooting really well from 3, and we're still middle of the pack in offense, right? And, like, we know what they do in the mid-range. We're still doing it high volume, high efficiency for the most part. weren't expecting them to be like a good finishing team or getting to the rim much. Like none of us expected that. So with those circumstances, right, and a decent record, you think, okay, their offense is a little better than we expected it to be. No, I mean, middle of the pack with just about everything going right. And look, and I saw a stat today that was about their shot quality. They were kind of in the bottom 5, I want to say, in 3-point shot quality, but we're in the top like 2 in percentage. Some of that just doesn't scream sustainability. Like what? And that's relevant to tonight, by the way, and relevant to last game because they started off both games shooting nothing from 3. Like, and I mean, just as far as makes, and I know I'm all over the place here, but it's just saying like they started tonight. What was it? 1 of 16 from 3.
Yeah.
And in the first half, last game, 0 of 12 from 3, if I remember correctly. When that 3 is not falling, and sometimes when their offense is just really like
It becomes
not
anemic.
going well. There, and Jimmy has said this so many times throughout the years, but there's been times throughout the years here where when their defense is not, I mean, their offense is not there and they're not making shots or a decent amount of shots, their defensive effort kind of falls along, it goes along the wayside too. It's just that can't be happening. You're not talented enough to play that game. And I get it. Like it's 3 games of 4 nights, all of that, like there's something to be said about that, but really I can't even talk about that. Like your effort from the start was terrible tonight. And then you followed it up with another bad quarter. And it's just like, how bad did you really want it? You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, tonight was a game where I think we all felt like
you stopped crying. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. I wanted to turn the TV off early. I'm going to be honest, because the effort's coming out. And let's go to the aggressive play of the night.
And now it's time for the Insurance by Lynette Play of the Night, sponsored by InsuranceByLynette.com, an aggressive insurance agency. You can reach out to our friend Lynette at 954-581-8800. That's 954-581-8800 or InsuranceByLynette.com. That's InsuranceByLynette.com with 2 N's, 2 T's. Your best play for auto insurance, homeowners insurance, condo insurance, life insurance, or a retirement program. Reach out to Lynette at InsuranceByLynette.com.
So there's only one meaningful, and meaningful is going too far, noteworthy play that I can remember from the Heat tonight. And Bam Adebayo was the one who did it. It was very early in the game, so I didn't know how quite bad it was going to get. But he had a little, he had the ball at the top of the key, had a little shoulder fake, the little shimmy fake, got to the basket, and dunked it. I don't even remember the timestamp because to give them a play,
he cut the lead to 30, cut the lead to 35. I think
cut the lead to 35.
No,
it was
I
one
just
of
made that
those. It felt like that. It would be that Bam Adebayo dunk. I'm also biased when I pick the Bam Adebayo plays, but that's okay.
No ceiling.
No ceiling. And let's, you know what? Back to back. Let's do the Eric Rubenstein injury report.
And now it's time for the official 5 on the Floor injury report, sponsored by our friend Eric Rubenstein, the personal injury attorney. Born and raised in Lauderdale, Florida, lives in Miami, went to St. Thomas. He's a South Florida guy and a huge Miami Heat fan. But the important thing is he can help you get your money that you deserve when something happens to you. So reach out to our guy, Eric Rubenstein. Again, ericrubenstein.com, or ask about me, I got you, on Instagram. And now, the injury report.
The injury report's cleaning up, and that's what made tonight so disconcerting to me. Really, it's K-Love and it's Jaime Jaquez Jr. Everyone else is ready to roll. And so the fact that that's where we are with it being this clean, that is what makes me walk away from this game feeling pretty disconcerted, is that your injury report can be that quickly. I literally did it for you in 2 sentences. I don't expect Kevin Love to be back on this trip. Neither do I expect Jaime Jaquez, but I will reiterate to everybody that he still expects to be able to participate in the dunk contest. So we feel good about that. That's your injury report. That's your play of the night. Let's get to final thoughts in a night where Miami shot 6 of 28 from 3. That's 21%. Toronto shot 20 of 38 from 3. That's almost 53%. Miami was out rebounded 45-37 and lost the turnover battle 14-10. Brady, final thoughts.
Yeah, it's definitely a tough scenario. I think we've hit on both the issues on kind of both sides of the ball. Felt like the offense was bleeding into the defense, but I mean, Spo said he wanted games in the mud,
Not
and
like
it was
this.
muddy. It was muddy for them. Like, let's just say that. Like the game was in the mud. The team was in the mud. Like the only way you're gonna get a game in the mud, like it was last year, is if you defend at a high level and make up for the missed shots. So I feel like that's and look, and I don't want to make this all about the starting lineup thing, but you're not getting a game in the mud with that starting lineup. You're just not. That's just not the
Good
the
point.
style you're playing. The only if you're gonna run that lineup out there, you better be playing out of the break. You better be scoring. Uh, you better be playing a fast style. Like it's just a certain style of basketball that you have to lean into with that lineup. So if you want to get games in the mud, which they need to right now with the way the offense is looking, you better start playing more defenders and playing into that style a little bit more. So I'm curious to see if they do it. They head back home, obviously, for this UD game, the retirement game, so that they'll be trying to get the vibes back up.
Yeah.
Maybe in the midst of the all this UD chatter, they slip in a starting lineup shift. They just try to make it real sneaky, where maybe it doesn't get talked about a lot, and all of a sudden Kyle Lowry's coming off the bench tonight.
Hey,
Well, wait, UD's jersey's getting retired at halftime. Wait, that's the story of the night. So hey, I'm just saying, let's look out for it.
they created diversion. I like that, Brady. That's very Miami Heat like.
Yep.
I
Yep.
I like how you're thinking there. Alex, final thoughts.
Is there a better night to do that than Udonis Haslam's retirement ceremony? I mean,
Yep.
jersey retirement ceremony, like the guy who sacrificed everything, right? Like, right? Kyle, you got if like think about all the sacrifices made throughout history, right? We don't even got to go through them. Just off of Udonis, right? You can come up with a little list there, and he's talked about it on his pod with Mike Miller and Lowry. Like I said, there's just no reason for him to be stapled into the starting lineup as if we haven't seen him be a productive bench player in the past where like you just
Yep.
come in, you help organize some of those other guys there, you be getting Jaques and Love and I mean playing with other good players still, but there's just no reason to have him in the starting lineup anymore. I it's not just about Kyle. Like I feel like I've been pretty fair to him since they've had him about what he can and can't do.
You
I
have.
don't see the reason for keeping him in. And when all their actions are still like being run through their best players, Kyle is literally just a ball mover out there, and Jovic can do that at 6'11" and actually wants to be out there. And look, I don't mean to sound like I don't want to be disrespectful. Like I'm not saying that none of these guys aren't trying, okay? But it's just like for
Tonight it
Kyle,
felt like that.
for Kyle, for Jimmy, for Love, and to different degrees. I'm not going to categorize them all in the same boat there, but it's a marathon more so for them because they really are just trying to be healthy by the playoffs. So why are we doing this thing where Lowry's in the starting lineup, getting a lot of minutes? Meanwhile, you have this Jovic kid who is like, good at the same things he is, much taller, and needs to be developed. Like he is not polished yet, and he's showing you good stuff and showed you, some stuff tonight. Not everything was great, specifically the finishing, but that's just a team problem as well. But what I'm saying is like, I just don't see the need for Kyle to be in the starting lineup. I think you're not a team that has a lot to depend on offensively, so I would just kind of lean into the defense, play a little bit bigger, and really lean into your defensive identity. And I feel like that's something that they would agree with. Is like we're not going to win games without playing defense, and that's what Brady was referring to with in the mud. It's like it's the wrong type of mud, like the complete wrong type of mud tonight. That's not what Spoelstra meant at all. And I don't have to hear him talk to know that. So like, look, the defensive effort from start to finish was terrible. And then honestly, outside of the 3-point shooting stuff that I hit on before and how big that gap was, the Heat still can't finish at the rim, whether in half court or in transition. And that's a problem. They can't generate easy points. They can't generate easy points. So it's like, that they're going to take a lot of middies, and most nights they're going to hit them at a high enough rate. That you can feel good about. They get to the free throw line pretty well when their team is healthy. You can feel good about those things. They don't turn over the ball. You can feel good about that offensively. Other than that, it's just like when they do get to the rim tonight, they got 33 shots at the rim. That's a fantastic number normally, but it's just all like yes, because they shot 19.
Well, and they were trading twos for threes.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. That's the math problem there. When you're hitting 1 3 in the first half and they hit 14, it's tough to overcome. But you know what? It's even tougher to overcome when you're shooting 57% within 4 feet of the rim, man. And that's been a problem all season long. And it's not the only season in the Jimmy era. Like, they're constantly at the bottom and finishing at the rim, constantly at the bottom at getting to the rim. So what does that tell you? When the three isn't falling, like, their offense is probably not going to be enough. Lean into the defense. That's all I'm saying.
Hopefully they lean into the defense as they head back to Miami for the game against Atlanta, Udonis Haslam's retirement ceremony, because UD will not be happy if they play leaky defense against Atlanta. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Brady. Thank you to Alex. Ethan will be back to cover that game as well as have you taken care of on the off day in between.
I can't believe we did a half hour on this.
We appreciate our sponsors. We appreciate our listeners. Peace out.